All right then. Missed you guys. I missed you guys.
Missed you too, Shaun. Missed you too.
Yeah.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that asks you that question, Netflix or cinema? Where are you going to spend your hard-earned money? Which one are you going to put your weight behind? Which one are you going to put your vote with in this never-ending war, seemingly never-ending war? My name is Tosin. I'm based up in the Midlands, somewhere near Coventry. And joining me in two different locations, I mean, this is the first time we're having the three of us in three different locations. Sharon on the Isle of Wight.
Hello.
And Shaun, somewhere in Bournemouth, I believe.
I am indeed. Yes, I am indeed. Hello, everyone.
Yes. First things first. Welcome back, Shaun. Nice to see that you survived your great American adventure.
Yeah, it was a bit cold and wet, but it was an adventure. So good fun.
Well, cold and wet. I mean, that wasn't what you signed up for, was it?
Well, I mean, you got to expect a bit of what shall we say? I don't know what the word would be, but yeah, I mean, no, I didn't sign up for it, but it was still good. It was a good trip.
All right, cool. And we only saw one picture, which was you. Well, it wasn't you. It was just the Statue of Liberty.
Statue of Liberty, yeah. That's it. Yeah, I'm not very good with social media things. I mean, I did take a few, but I don't normally post lots, as you no doubt noticed. So.
Yeah, I'm just going to take that to mean that, like, you were having so much fun, you didn't even think about letting us know what you were doing. That's what I'm going to take that to mean.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Sharon and I would just sit here and be like, okay, it's fine. Shaun forgot about us, but no big deal. It's not about us.
I'll send you some if you like toast. I'll find some and send you some.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's fine. I don't care. I'm not taking it personally at all.
Oh, that's good.
We're over it.
So Sharon, you said that the rain has the storms we've been having have sort of like messed up your day, haven't they?
Yes, I've had another rain day today. Well, we did one job this morning, and then rain halted play. So yes, I've had a bit more time than I was expecting today. Oh. And in fact, every week since September, we've been affected by the rain for the last 5 months.
You gotta love the English weather. Wait until we get to summer. That's gonna be fun. Okay, so anyway, let's move on to films quickly, because I think we have a bit of a backlog. Shaun, you have been on a plane and you've been in America, so God knows what's been happening.
Yeah, I've seen a few things, so I think you've reviewed them all already. But
we reviewed quite a few, so let's go through the things that you've seen. So first up, okay, we're going to talk about Lighthouse, which our London correspondent Holly, she reviewed this a couple of weeks ago, and she called it the most baffling film she has ever seen. She's actually said that for her birthday this year, what she wants most of all is for somebody to come down, sit down, and explain this film to her. What did you think of this film?
Well, it was quite intriguing, really. I think it's basically a movie about the madness that loneliness can cause. I mean, I know there's two of them, but I think being cooped up with I don't know, just psychosis, would you say? But it's a really interesting movie because you don't really know yourself. You think, wow, is it just one of these stories where it's all in the mind, or is there something more? Is there some weird happenings? But I thought it was really, really atmospheric, and I thought it was shot really well and interesting dialogue. But I do think it just, I don't know. I don't really know what I really thought of this film. It was a bit odd. I sort of wanted it to finish and wondered where it was going. But I did think the acting was absolutely phenomenal. And Robert Pattinson, I mean, he's sort of gone from strength to strength, really, hasn't he, since his Twilight?
Yeah, since his Twilight days, times.
Yeah. He was, you didn't even recognise him, really. But yeah, it's like a descent into madness. So I couldn't really. I'm sorry, Holly. I can't really tell you myself what it was about, but it was intriguing, and it was good, and it was shot. The cinematography was absolutely marvelous. Reminded me of some of this French new wave avant-garde sort of. But I think it's a film you need to see at the movies. So
Okay.
At the picture, at the cinema. Yeah.
Well,
On the whole.
I was going to say, for those of you who are privileged enough to be in a place that has a cinema that's showing it.
Yeah, that's it exactly. Yeah, I mean it is. It's because it didn't come to the island at all, did it?
Yeah,
so
it's nowhere near me.
I'm sure a lot of people were disappointed that it didn't appear, because I know there's a few people that wanted to see it.
Well, I think actually it's coming to one of the smaller cinemas. It's coming to the Commodore. It's not coming to Cineworld, but
Really?
showing it in the week next week. I saw a little post from them. So yeah, I think they're going to show 2 showings in the week. So there won't be a weekend performance, but I think they are going to show it twice for this week. Anyway, 2 showings a day.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Clever Commodore.
Clever. Yeah, I expect they should imagine there'd be quite a few people that would probably take the trip to see that.
Yeah, and it is quite good to sort of support our little independent cinemas as well. I know
Sure.
we go to the main chains, but the little indies are out there occasionally. So, and there are film clubs. I think some of the film clubs are going to be showing it. So yeah, I think we might be able to catch it.
Oh, good.
Cool.
Good stuff. All right, so Shaun, how many stars would you give The Lighthouse?
A really solid 3. I thought, it was. It was had lots of good points, but I was sort of fidgeting a bit towards the end. So it's going to be a 3.
Okay, you'll be happy to know you and Holly, bang on, you both concur. She gave it a 3. So.
Oh wow, that's good.
Okay, and you saw A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which Sharon saw ages ago. Like, I've been banging on about how I saw Parasites about 4 months before everybody else did, and Sharon did something very similar with A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. You saw this last year.
Yeah, last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so
I really liked it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, for me, I wouldn't say I didn't like it, but it didn't. I mean, I know it's had loads of fabulous reviews and everybody seems to like it and all that, but I didn't. I mean, I normally like those quirky, weird films. Normally they're right up my street, but for some reason this didn't particularly hit, ring a bell or hit any notes really for me.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because I mean, it should be pretty good. And I found that Tom Hanks was actually, I know this is terrible, I'm going to be pilloried for this, was actually getting on my nerves a little bit. Maybe he was too nice. Yeah, I know. I mean, what can Sharon, what are you going to tell me about that?
I'm not going to tell you anything.
Oh,
You're allowed to choose. You don't.
No. So, so this wasn't a major jump in the, it was. So I'd give it a 3-star, this one. Give it a 3-star.
Okay.
Really, there's not much more I can say about that one.
All right, okay. And now we go from those and we go into the films that you saw that you said you saw on my recommendation.
On your recommendations, yes.
So this
Queen
was
and Slim.
So Queen and Slim and Bad Boys for Life. Okay, let's start with Queen and Slim, which is a film that I've got to be honest with you. When I think about it now, I still have flashbacks to things in the film, and it actually, let's say it stayed with me or affects me emotionally. What did you think?
Okay, for me, Toes, this was, I thought the first half, 3/4 was really good, really sort of gripped me. I thought it was, it started off really well. I don't know what I could say about the ending, but I mean, on the whole, it was, I thought, oh, this is really, really good, with the police and all that and getting involved. And then I think when the sort of, when they went down to the Everglades and it sort of, it sort of, for me, I started to get a bit antsy then after that. But on the whole, it was okay, but I would say a film with 2 halves for me, really. First half, absolutely, really, really good. Second half, sort of slipped up a little bit, I think. But I'd still give it a 3-star.
No. Well, I gave it. I gave it a 5. So I gave it a 5, and it's because.
But, I mean, I think it was. I think it was. It was. I don't know what to say about it. It was when they were sort of on the intercoastal, when they were waiting to be with the car, and I don't know. It just maybe I was having a bad day. But it's not it's not a bad film. It's not a bad film, but for me it was just a 3-star.
Of course not. It's an excellent film.
Yeah, no, I'm not knocking it. It wasn't.
Don't worry. And if it is, I'm going to, as I've said, and I've said this before. I've said this when we're talking about things like Get Out and stuff like that. That there's films that I watch, and I know that sometimes when I'm watching them as a black man, I'm pretty sure I'm watching a different film for what other people are watching. So
yeah, probably.
It's okay. It's if it did, that's no big deal. But I know what you're talking about, because it's something about the film where it's getting to what's the point where this story has to end at some point. And I think that it sort of has issues there. There's just issues with trying to end a story like that. All right, and the final thing was Bad Boys for Life.
Bad Boys for Life, right? Now, bearing in mind, and I think I said to you before, I've not seen the others.
Yeah, I haven't seen the other Bad Boy movies. Watch the first one, skip the second one.
Yeah, I wouldn't, if it hadn't been for a friend that really wanted to see it, and you mentioning it, I probably would have given this film a miss. Because I didn't enjoy the trailer. I've got to be honest, the trailer, I thought, oh no, it's going to be a Fast and Furious type thing, and I'm probably not going to enjoy it and everything that. So I went with really, really low expectations with a friend who said, you've got to see it, So anyway, I went to see it, and it was bloody marvellous. I thought it was, honestly, Toes, I really, really enjoyed this movie. It was great. And there wasn't anything too ridiculously silly in it either. You know what I mean? It was, to me, the stuff that was going on was quite feasible. So yeah, I enjoyed that bit. And like you say, the interacting between them was just great. And I just love the Prius. I just love the Prius and the tune on the Prius, And I know it's gonna be a lovely, the bit, lovely day with Sharon's gonna be mad at you, man. So yeah, that was, absolutely, really, really, really top movie. Good movie, which I had absolutely no hopes for whatsoever.
Yeah, it is a very good film. It isn't, the Bad Boys thing is never supposed to be a kind of Fast and Furious thing, even though I feel like there's some elements of this. And if you listen to my review of it, you hear more about the elements of it that I feel that is getting a bit Fast and Furious and makes me a bit worried for the sequel. They do a bit of sequel baiting, and there's bits of it that make me a bit worried. I'm like, I don't think I like where you're going with this. But the film itself, good.
Yes, yeah, definitely good. Definitely agree with you on I think you gave it 4, did you Did you give this a 4? I think I've seen you remember.
Yes, I gave it a 4.
Solid 4, because I'd give it a solid 4 as well, which is a total surprise, because I thought I was going to totally hate it. So yeah, so agree with you. Good movie. Good
stuff. All right, cool. Now let's get on to the films we're actually going to be talking about this week. So what we do on this show, if you haven't listened to it before, is that we go and we usually see 3 films. 3 films in the cinema, 3 films at home, be it on Netflix or a BBC iPlayer or anything like that. And we, based on these 3 films, we give them a score out of 5. We take an average, and whoever has the highest score, the high average score at the end of the show, wins the week. So this week, our first film is Birds of Prey. Now, Sharon, would you like to take that away and explain to us what this film's all about?
Okay, Birds of Prey, or the full title, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. This is a sequel, in effect, to Suicide Squad, where we first meet, in the cinematic world anyway, Harley Quinn. And in this film, she's just broken up with the Joker.
Yep.
And she's set on this sort of path of emancipation, trying to free herself from being the sidekick, the plus one, the whatever, and come into her own. And so the cast of characters we meet are all in a similar situation. There's the female cop played by Rosie Perez.
There's
Montoya. The huntress. Oh, I didn't know the name. Yeah. So there's the Black Canary, who's basically just like a lounge singer in the employ of Ewan McGregor in this sort of nightclub.
Yep.
And then there's the huntress, who's on a sort of mission of vengeance. So all these women have been in the past sort of relegated to sidekicks or to the +1 status, they're suddenly coming into their own. And they're basically, the story is a young girl, a pickpocket, has come in possession of an item that is highly desirable.
MacGuffin.
And everyone is trying to get it. Yes, everyone is trying to get it. And these ladies, for various different reasons of their own, trying to stop the bad guys. And then sort of mayhem ensues. So I think the story itself is probably, that's it. There's this thing, and then there's this other thing. But it's basically this sort of strange marriage between these 4 women and this younger girl, and how they sort of basically wreak havoc through the streets of. Is it set in Gotham City?
It's set in Gotham, yeah, because
so they're just.
Yeah, so carry on.
No, I was gonna say they're just sort of roaring their way through Gotham, without a male superhero to be seen.
Yes, because the Birds of Prey are pretty much part of they are sort of a subset of the Batmaniverse, as in Gotham got introduced through Batman, and then all these other characters got introduced, and then I think in the comics they became a super team. So now, Shaun, could you tell us, what did you think about this film?
Yes, I can tell you what I thought about this film. I mean, a lot of people didn't like Suicide Squad. I really liked Suicide Squad. Harley Quinn was obviously the best. So I think from this film, I was really looking forward to this film. As I wasn't looking to bad, but with this one, I was really, really looking forward to this film. And it didn't really, I don't know. I couldn't really get into it. I wish they'd have done like Gotham Sirens, where they'd had, maybe Catwoman and Poison Ivy and those, rather than these other characters, because the Huntress didn't really impress me to that degree, and I wasn't keen on the cop lady. So yeah, I'm sorry to say, Toes, that it didn't have that oomph that Suicide Squad. I didn't enjoy it as much as Suicide Squad.
You are not having a good week.
You're not having a good. I know. No, Bad Boys was good.
Okay.
Bad Boys was a surprise.
Okay, Sharon. So yeah, Sharon, what did you think? Shaun. Okay, good. So, Sharon, what did you think?
Yeah, I can understand what Shaun meant. I mean, it took me a little while to get into it, because it is, the only word I can use to describe it really is anarchic. It was completely anarchic at the beginning. And Harley Quinn is really annoying.
Nail your colours to the mast, why don't you?
Yeah, so if it's all about her, it's like, when I sat there, I thought, oh, I'm not going to love this. But then I did actually warm to it. I didn't necessarily warm to her particularly, but I did warm to the narrative, and I warmed to the style of it. How it was just, they sort of threw the rules away about sort of linear narrative and telling a story, and it was just a back and forward in time, and these different characters, and they sort of, you got a different perspective on them, and it was just, yeah, it was all a bit nuts. But then I think it was entirely supposed to be absolutely not.
Yeah, because it is narrated by Harley Quinn, and obviously Harley Quinn she's a bit unreliable, shall we say.
The unreliable narrator. Yes.
Yeah, she's an unreliable narrator. Even though I feel like the film does kind of like, make her into some sort of massive action hero, because which is pretty cool, because obviously this is a film that's being made, and it's a whole all-female superhero team, and that is, let's say that the film wears that on its sleeve quite obviously. Like, yeah, it's all female superhero team. The story is, there's all these elements, as we've had in the last couple of years. We had it in Captain Marvel. We had a whole big discussion about Charlie's Angels and how this actually went about it. But there's bits of the element that it's all about, men controlling women and women breaking free of that, which is pretty cool. Now,
yes, certainly in this world where the gender roles are more strictly defined in this sort of fantasy world than in many others. I think, and DC are sort of trying to do their bit to break free. I think with Wonder Woman it was slightly more successful.
Yep. Because
she's a slightly more fleshed out character. But yeah, I can see how they were trying to do that with Harley Quinn. They were emancipating her. So yeah, if it was nuts, it was crazy. It took me a while to get into, but then I did warm to it towards the end. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I did find some of the moments quite funny. Though I did have this random thought. They had a big scene at the end in this abandoned fun fair.
Yep.
They always have these abandoned fun fairs in these comics, don't they? I don't know how they managed to make so many and then abandon them.
Especially if it involves the Joker or Harley Quinn, because I think that abandoned funfair is pretty much straight out of Batman the Animated Series. Because there's a Batman movie called Mask of the Phantasm, which is pretty much, it's animated, but it's possibly the best Batman movie that has been made. And that ends up in a funfair that looks very, very similar to that one. It looks very... Yeah. So that's why
it's completely nuts, but I did have the random thought that funfair, it was probably closed down because it was a health and safety nightmare.
Oh, it was closed down. It was closed down, yeah.
There were just like health hazards everywhere. I thought, how on earth could you ever allow the public into that space? It's just lethal. So I was distracted by that halfway through, thinking, whoa, that is just not safe. How did they let people in there?
All right.
So that's how my thought process was working. But on the whole, I thought it was a bit mad, it was a bit crazy, but I did enjoy it on the whole.
Okay, now if you're listening to this, you might wonder that you haven't heard Shaun for a while. That's because Shaun is on mute. And this is not because we've gotten annoyed with Shaun saying something as egregious as that Suicide Squad is better than this film. I mean, come on. It's because we're having some technical issues with Shaun's line. So we will put Shaun every now and then and ask him what he thought. And first of all, Shaun, I'm just going to say straight up, I can't believe you think that Suicide Squad is a better film than this. I mean, come on. So Shaun, come back on and defend yourself.
Okay. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean, I enjoyed Suicide Squad much more than a lot of people did. I thought it was really, really good. Harley Quinn was my favourite character. She wasn't quite, I don't know why, she wasn't quite the same in this. And I don't know if we can say this on this, but I don't think she looked quite as hot as she looked in I know it's a bad thing to say, but in Suicide Squad, she looked hot. In this, she looked a bit of a I don't know, more of a tart or whatever you say, but Ooh. She just didn't really. So, I'm not saying she wasn't in Suicide Squad, but I thought she was much more subtle in Suicide Squad. This was a bit, I don't know. This was not quite, I don't know. It just didn't grab me. I think maybe perhaps it's one of those ones where you're really, really looking forward to something for a long time. You're looking forward to come out, you see, and then, it's a bit of a letdown. Do you know what I mean? So perhaps that had something to do with it, but it certainly didn't. I didn't think it was a good movie by any stretch of the imagination.
All right, cool. You go back on mute. All right, cool. Back on mute with you.
Okay, hang on. I'll go back on mute. Okay, to talk to you guys in a bit.
In a bit. All right, cool. This is unfortunate because we can't really have one of our arguments because I totally don't. Well, I think part of the thing here is Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad, she had those hot pants on. And Margot Robbie has gone on record saying that she did not like that costume. And because, as Shaun said, Harley Quinn was one of the few real successes of Suicide Squad. Margot Robbie has had a lot more power because she's actually a producer on this film. So she has a lot more power on to say what goes. And quite frankly, I'm quite happy about that. And I think that the lack of the hot pants and all that kind of stuff is a definite, deliberate move to say, no, this is what this is going to be. It's going to be about women being powerful and not about women standing there being sexy, which I think which quite frankly, I said, I'm all for. I quite like some of the fighters when they fight. And there's a scene, if you remember in Black Panther, there's a scene in Black Panther where Okoye, who is T'Challa's bodyguard, pretty much, they're fighting in this casino in Korea, and she is wearing a wig, and she takes the wig off and uses it as a fighting move and throws the wig in somebody's face. And that was a move that I was kind of like, yes, because it's there's a whole thing about black women and wearing wigs that have long straight hair because they're trying to be like white women, because that's been the standard of beauty that they've been presented with and told this is what it means to be beautiful for years. And that was a little moment in Black Panther that I don't think many people who were black would have picked up on. And I feel like there's a similar moment in Birds of Prey in a fight where Black Canary is fighting and her hair is going in her face. And then Harley Quinn comes up and goes, hair tie? And gives her a hair tie that she ties her hair up and keeps fighting. And I loved that moment. I was like, I get it. I never had long hair. I never had to do that, but I see what you're doing there. I see you, sister. But
yeah, so, I thought that I did enjoy that move as well. When you see her flicking her hair about, it's like, yeah, just tie that back.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, I think towards the end the film gets a little bit sort of action movie. It's more of to be honest with you, I feel it's more of an action movie than it is a superhero movie.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot more of an action movie than it is a superhero movie, and they do try and go, oh, we're DC, we're dark, we're gonna swear and F and blind all over the place, and there's no hiding the fact that we're killing people in sometimes quite gory ways. So, and I'll have to say, I love seeing Rosie Perez on screen. I think she should be in more stuff because I love Rosie Perez, and the woman, she is aging really, really, really slowly. Because I look at her in this one and I'm thinking, she doesn't look that different to what she looked like in White Men Can't Jump. But all in all, I would give it a 3. I'm not sure. Shaun, what would you give it?
I'd give it a 3 too. Yeah, I would go. That 3, I think, is a reasonable score for it.
Shaun?
Okay, I'm back there now. Yes, yeah. The misogynist beast that I was chuckling a little. I was chuckling a little bit there with some of your comments, so it was quite funny. I mean, I'll give it a 3 as well. I'll give it a 3. It wasn't like bang in your face, but I don't know. It just I had a few issues with it, so I'd have to give that a 3 as well. So I'll agree with you guys on that one. I'll give it a 3.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. I hope. Okay. Anyway, now we are going to go from there. We're going to go to Netflix. This is a film that I think only Shaun has seen all the way through. I've seen bits of the film, but Shaun is the only one who's seen all the way through. But we call Netflix a cinema because we usually talk about whether we watch a film in cinema or whether we watch it on Netflix. And over the last couple of months, this has actually been blurred. The line has been blurred. We have been getting increasingly films that have been released on both within a very short space of time. I remember Little Monsters, which seemed to debut in cinemas on the same day that it showed up on Sky Cinema. And this is one of those films. It's called Uncut Gems. It was a big hit on the festival circuit last year. People were even talking about this at the Oscars for Adam Sandler's performance. I know, Adam Sandler. People were talking about him for an Oscar. and they were even talking about Adam Sandler for an Oscar. Then he won the Best Actor award at the Independent Spirit Awards just before the Oscars. He gave quite a funny speech where he spoke about the fact that he wasn't nominated for an Oscar. And and this film, he plays a character called Howard Ratner, who is a Jewish New York jeweler, and it shows up that he has all these people because he's also a compulsive gambler, and he has all these people around New York who he owes money to, and he finds this opal in a mine in Ethiopia, which he thinks this is it. This is going to be my big score. This is what's going to solve all of my problems, and it's just one of those films where things keep going wrong because he keeps making decisions that you just keep thinking, oh, dude, why are you doing that? That is such a bad idea. If you have this and if this is your way out, why would you do that? Oh, come on, what's wrong with you? But I think it's the genius of the performances and the genius of the direction and everything that he is always believable. Like, you always believe that this guy would actually do that because he's just a bit of a compulsive guy. Now, so, Shaun, I've wound you up, and now I'm going to let you go. Tell us what you thought about this.
Okay, so my thoughts on this film. It's really interesting. I mean, probably the only reason I watched it is because there was all that furore about it, doing the circuits and that. And I thought, I like to see Uncut Gems because Adam Sandler, I think some of his films are a bit hit and miss, Yep. But I thought it was a sterling performance by him. Totally different, totally out of character, and. Well, what can we say? It was quite. The action was quite good. I like the idea of him not getting the gem back. When and it's like, so he's got all this stuff, and the auction was a terrific. The auction was a terrific scene. Did you get up that far? Did you get to the auction?
Just before the auction.
Just before the auction. Okay. Well, that's a really, really good scene. So there's lots of there's lots of things in this that I really enjoyed, and. Interesting ending as well.
Okay. No spoilers.
Yeah, no, I'm not spoiling it. I'm just saying that to get you to watch it so you can actually give me your thoughts on it. So, I mean, I'm assuming you think it's pretty good so far from what you've seen. A really good movie, well acted, some interesting characters there. And I know it seems over the top and he's loud and he's brash and all that, but you could imagine the characters being like that. It was there were characters in it. And some of the people that he owes money to and stuff. And so on the whole, I thought it was a really, really good movie. I really, really enjoyed it. So and as I say, the ending's going to be so interesting for you, Toast. Yeah, but I mean, was that a real basketball player?
Kevin Garnett, yeah, he's a real person.
Yeah,
a real person.
yeah. So I mean, that was quite fun. That, but yeah. I mean, yeah, no, it was. So it was. I mean, it was a sort of. It was serious but comedic as well, wasn't it? But I mean, as in situation comedic, I guess. So yeah, my thoughts on it. I really enjoyed this film, and I would recommend it to people. I don't know about Sharon. I think there's a bit of swearing and stuff in it. But
how many stars would you give it?
I'm going to give this a 4.
Okay, from what Shaun said, Shaun's right. Yeah, from what I've watched so far, it is actually really, really interesting. I think Adam Sandler's performance that I've seen so far, because obviously I haven't seen the whole film yet, so I am a bit reticent to sort of like go, oh yeah, this, that, and the other. But I just think that it's really, really well edited. It's really well filmed, edited, directed, and it shows you this sort of like bit where all these worlds collide, where you have all these sort of people who provide the gems, which are, well, the film actually starts off in Ethiopia, and it shows, for me, from my whole sort of, you know how we all have the hills that we will die on, and we all have the things that we sort of like try and champion, and for me, the representation of black people, especially Africans on screen, and I actually quite like the beginning scene that's set in Ethiopia, because it has like this whole bit where they're talking about, Shaun, you want to, okay, it has this bit where you see the people in the mine, and it's pretty much these Ethiopians who kick off the whole story. And I'm like, oh wow, that's cool. That they actually have a word that I've learned recently and I've learned how to use. They have some agency to them, and I thought that was pretty cool. But it's like, how all these different worlds collide. The people who go and mine this gem somewhere in Ethiopia, the people who sell it, who are mostly Jewish in the sort of like jewelry quarter in New York, and the people who actually want to come and buy them. And this is where the basketball player Kevin Garnett that Shaun was talking about comes in, where it's he comes in to sort of like get his bling, so to say. And a lot of the people who come in to want to buy this are sort of like, you know, in the entertainment industry. There's a bit where The Weeknd shows up, and Sharon, these words may or may not mean anything to you when I say Kevin Garnett, The Weeknd, all that kind of stuff. They are young pop people. That's the pop culture people. And I from what I've seen, I'm really, really impressed with it. I'm really impressed with the way his character goes along, and it draws you in, and it just makes you think. As I said, there's things that he's doing that are stupid, but you're still thinking, okay, I believe that this character would do that. It's not like I know, Shaun, you usually have this whole thing. You're watching the film and you go, why would you do that? Which is in my head, Shaun, that's actually one of your catchphrases when you're watching the film. You go, why would you do that? But I think that this character actually, you think, oh yeah, actually, you know what? I totally believe he would do that. Shaun, what do you reckon about that?
Yeah, I reckon you're exactly right there, Toes. He is the sort of manic character that would do something like that, you know. And there are people that, you know, they get money, and you know, when they've got money, it's like, and if they're a gambler, it's an addiction, isn't it? Like anything else, and they just think, it's the big one. Yeah. There's funny enough, honestly, I know this is going off on a tangent like I generally do, but there was I just happened to catch when I was over here with the thing. It was called "Support Your Local Gunfight," an old James Garner film, and there's a bit in that where he's done this stuff and he's got paid the money and he can hear the roulette wheel in the background, and it's sort of calling him, you know, it's calling him. So what does he do? He goes and puts all the money on. But I didn't see the bit after that because my folks wanted to watch, all the people that were around wanted to watch something else. So, but that was the bit that. So he would do, someone who is that sort of compulsive and that manic would do stuff like that. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
And I like the fact that in the film they do it without ever saying this guy's addicted to gambling. He shows it with his performance that he is, without ever spelling out that he is. So I just thought it was a very well done thing. Well, that's it. 4 stars for Uncut Gems. And now we go back to cinema. And Sharon, this is a film that only you have seen, and this is Emma.
Yeah, now that's a shocker, isn't it?
No, I will hold my hand up. I was planning to see this film. I really did want to see this film. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it to the cinema to see it because I just got busy with work and stuff. So unfortunately, I couldn't. But I was planning to see it. But yeah, we are kind of caricatures of our own selves. So yeah, Shaun, you keep going on mute and then off mute.
I do, because I wanted to say something, and then I think, oh, no, because you're still talking. But
okay, cool.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm going to go and see this. I may go see this tonight, perhaps. I don't know. We'll wait and see. But yeah, I do want to see this one. So I'm interested in what Sharon's got to say.
All right, cool. So Sharon, Emma, tell us about it.
Yes, well, those of you who don't know, Emma is an adaptation of a Jane Austen novel. It's one of her comic novels where there's a few, a few of the characters are exaggerated characteristics, shall we say.
Yeah.
So Emma Woodhouse is a 21-year-old woman. So in her day, that was regarded as being quite old to be getting married. That's towards the latter end of her eligibility, where she's still at her prime, but give it another couple of years and she'll be regarded as being
on the trash heap,
on the shelf, as it were. So, but she's sort of, she's wealthy, she's independent, and she's been very, very much indulged by her father. And because she's had no responsibilities, she meddles. And her governess has successfully married her neighbour. And so she thinks she's an expert matchmaker. So she then proceeds to try to make matches amongst her acquaintance with, shall we say, some unforeseen consequences that she hadn't really prepared herself for. Is
it fair to say that this is one of those farcical novels that Jane Austen wrote?
Yes, it's one of her comic ones. Yeah. I mean, it isn't my favourite one, but her comic novels like Emma and Northanger Abbey, it's certainly the best of those two. But yes, it's one of her comic novels where the characters are exaggerated and certain characteristics are like you are meant to sort of laugh at them as well as identify and go, actually, that's really funny because there's people like that and I may be like that.
Yeah.
So these characteristics are exaggerated. So, but yes, it is. It's all very. I know people use these words for Jane Austen adaptations, but I thought it was charmingly done.
Yeah.
Now, we don't tend to describe other films as charming unless they are period films, but I actually really liked the way they'd adapted it. My friend didn't like it as much because she thought it was too comic. They'd made it too funny.
Oh yeah.
Whereas, so she said, she wanted it to be a bit more subtle, but I don't think people get subtlety in cinema so much. So I think I can understand why they were a bit heavier on the comic. With this one.
Okay, so we a couple of weeks back we spoke about David Copperfield. So David Copperfield has just been recently. So Dickens has been at a story that has been adapted many times over. He's come back. We spoke about Little Women. Same thing has been adapted many times. They've made a new version of it. And now Emma is last time it was adapted for the cinema as Emma was Gwyneth Paltrow in the 90s, and everybody always talks about Clueless and talks about how Clueless with Alicia Silverstone is essentially it's an update. It's Emma but updated. So so my question whenever there's a new adaptation of something that's been done many times is why this? How does this differ from everything else? And the one thing I can look out when I just looking at the trailers is the color palette seems totally different. Like it jumps off the screen at you, as opposed to other Jane Austen, which are all a bit sort of muted and a bit samey. But this has colors that they do a very similar trick, I think, in David Copperfield, where the colors seem to jump off the screen at you. Was that so? Using that as a starting point, what else about this makes you think, okay, this is different?
Yes, I think the cast they're more age appropriate to the actual books, because in the books the characters are in their 20s. They are very young. We regard them as being very young. I mean, at the time that was when the average age, you died at 50, then people you did live your peak of your sort of attractiveness was that a bit younger. So but they have got it, so it is I think of it as a much younger cast, like Mr. Alton the vicar. he is obviously a man in his 20s, whereas he's normally cast as a man in his 30s. Again, Mr. Knightley is much younger. We normally see him as much more of a mature man, whereas in this, he's much more. He's certainly older than Emma, but he feels much more of a contemporary to her.
Is that the character played by Johnny Flynn?
Johnny Flynn, yeah, and you know how I like.
I know you. I think this Johnny Flynn is somebody who I don't think I've ever seen a film with him in it, but I know about him because of you and of your certain, shall we say, appreciation of his talents.
Yes, well, I've got a lot of. He's a musician. I knew him first as a musician, so
yeah.
I've got several of his CDs, and I think you've been in the car when I've been playing them for you, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think you said, "Who's this?" And I've said, "Oh, it's Johnny Flynn."
Oh, is it like the folksy stuff?
He's a folk, yeah. He's a folk singer.
Okay, all right, gotcha.
So, and he did the soundtrack to the television series Decemberists, which you know I love.
Oh, the Detectorist,
so
yeah.
He did the soundtrack to that. So I knew him principally as a folk singer. So every now and then when he does do films, he's moved much more into acting in the last 5 years. I think his last CD was sort of like 4 years ago. So yeah, he's certainly got moving into the acting in a big way. But I know him principally as a folk musician.
And you're not complaining. You're not complaining.
I'm not complaining. But no, he does sing in this. So I was like, I wanted to do that whole punch the air and say, yes, I told you he was a great singer. And I wanted to sort of shout out. I had to stop myself from shouting out, yes, and I've got several of his CDs, because my knowledge is greater than yours.
I loved him before you all even knew who he was.
Yeah, you've never heard of him, but I've got his records.
All right.
So I was a bit boastful. I was a bit possessive of Johnny Flynn, because he's like, no, I liked him first.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I get the same thing.
Yeah. But I did thoroughly enjoy this version. I mean, since the screen, this is like I just say rightly that there hasn't been a screen adaptation of Emma since Gwyneth Paltrow had to go, but there have been 3 on the television. There's been 3 serializations of it in the same period of time. So this is a story that people who like their Austen are very familiar with this story.
Yeah.
But I was quite happy with it. I mean, the only time I would have a very tiddly tiny quibble, and that's because I've read the books. And there's some lines from Emma that are just like key, and they slightly changed them. And so they made them much less subtle. So in the book, there's a couple of really subtle insults. And here they've like dropped the subtlety and they've made it much more overt.
Oh.
Because I think the modern ear, an insult in Jane Austen's day, you may not recognise it's been quite so hurtful.
Oh, yeah.
So they made one of the famous like insult to Miss Bates. I think they made it much more obvious that it was an insult in this rather than in the other adaptations where they've lifted it straight from the book. But no, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Okay, all right. So we will let's bring Shaun in and have Shaun ask a question. Shaun, question Emma.
Okay, question Emma. I mean, are the performances really good? Because I mean, I'm really into the lead actress. You know, I mean, I think she's who is it who plays the part? Is it Anya
Taylor-Joy.
That's it, Anya Taylor-Joy. I always get those treble, but it's like I used to call William Gordon Scott or whatever his name is. I always get those three barreled names confused. But yeah, I mean, I really like her. I've liked her in all the movies actually that she's been in. Especially she was in The Witch, which is a film from a while ago, and I was really impressed with her from the Glass movies, or not Glass, So I really rate her. So what's her performance like, Sharon? Is it a good performance? Convincing?
I like it. Yes.
All right.
Yeah, and I thought the only one who I was a little bit unsure of at the beginning was Bill Nighy. Again, I thought he was a bit broader in his acting than some of the others. But again, I adjusted to that. Because Mr. Woodhouse, played by Bill Nighy, he's completely oblivious to his own eccentricity. He's he's oblivious to it. And I got the feeling with this performance,
that's like Bill
he's
Nighy.
A little bit more knowing. Yeah, he's a bit more knowing. So some of the times when he makes obsessions about drafts and things.
I'm going to come in here and just say that I'm getting a bit fed up with Bill Nighy, to be fair. I think he's had his day. It's time for him to rest on his laurels, I think.
So, Sharon, what do you reckon? Do you think was Bill Nighy just doing his old thing, because when you say oblivious to his own eccentricities, that sounds like Bill Nighy all over.
Yeah, I think the character in the book is much more oblivious to the fact
Okay.
that he's completely nuts. Whereas Bill Nye, I think he played him a little bit more knowing than he probably was.
Yeah.
So that he was the only one I thought was a bit broad. I thought everyone else sort of took their character and yeah, they were as sort of eccentric as in the books. I thought his was the only one I wasn't entirely convinced by. But no, I did thoroughly enjoy it, and I did really enjoy all the performances. The only thing is, two of the actors, the one who plays Mr. Alton and the one who plays Frank Churchill, they're the two sort of love rivals, as it were, but not really, for Emma's hand. The actors I thought were so similar. When I first saw them, I was thinking, is it the same actor playing both roles? And you never saw them in the same scene. So I was thinking, is it the same one? But they looked so similar that it took me a while to actually work out that they weren't the same actor.
Oh.
But so I thought they could have made the casting a little bit more obvious there.
All right. Cool. And how many stars would you give Emma?
I would give Emma a definite 4-star.
Ooh, good stuff. Good stuff. Because you see, I've seen that the rating for this has sort of jumped between 2 and 4. I've seen people give it 2 and I've seen people give it 4. This made me go, you know what? I'm gonna have to go see this film now. I need to go see this film. I'm due a period drama and B, a romantic comedy.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. So now we're going to jump over to Netflix. Going to try and see whether they can get a move on. And this is going to be a show called Russian Doll. Now, I've seen this, and it's a show starring Natasha Lyonne, and it is pretty much Groundhog Day. So you know how Groundhog Day, the general idea of it is that somebody gets stuck in a time loop and they keep living this time loop until they have to figure something out. And when they figure something out, that's when they might be able to escape and at the end of the day become a better person. So Natasha Lyonne plays a character whose name I cannot remember, who is, she's at her 35th birthday party. And she's quite an acerbic character because when you get Natasha Lyonne to play a character, how can she be anything but acerbic? So like acerbic, snarky, so like a bit of a smart ass. And she does all these, they meet all these different people. She leaves her own birthday party early because she's having issues about the fact that she's turning 35, which is the age at which her mom died. And she's thinking like, you know, if she, no, I think her mom died before she got to 35. So she feels like when she's got to 35, she's like, okay, cool. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life now. I've lived my mom. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on. And you get introduced to all these different characters that she bumps into in this party. Then the next morning, she dies. She dies, and then when she dies, and then she wakes up immediately back at her 35th birthday party in the living room, listening to the same song that she heard, that she was hearing at that time. And she's like, what happened? And so the first time it happens, she's like, what's going on? And she just feels this sense of deja vu. But then she dies, and then she wakes up and she's like, oh my God, something is going on. And then she starts realizing more and more that, okay, I am definitely reliving the same night over and over again. And then she starts trying to figure out what it is. And she says like, maybe this is trying to make me a better person. Maybe it's like a spiritual thing. Maybe it's like, a scientific quantum thing. That she starts going into it, and it becomes almost a treatise on the time loop comedy, as well as being a time loop comedy itself, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
And the first part of it's because it has 8, like most Netflix series, it's 8 episodes. So I was watching and going, okay, this is going to get really boring if they just keep doing this for 8 episodes. If it's essentially going to be Groundhog Day, but for 8 episodes, it's going to get really boring. But they keep throwing wrinkles at it, and they throw different things in there. And there's one particular episode that ends in a way that makes you go, oh, this is different. Oh, what's going on here then? And I think it's a worthy addition to the time loop thing. It apparently is. I think they're coming up for the second season. I don't know where they're going to go with it. I think it might be a bad idea, but it's the way it sort of carries on and it goes on. And when it comes to the whole, even though Bill Murray is quite what's the word? What word do we use to describe Bill Murray?
Quirky.
Quirky, deadpan. I can't remember. No, I don't know what I'm looking for. But essentially, you wouldn't associate the word sweet with him. But there's something about this, and so whenever you have this time loop comedies, there's always something sort of sweet about it that ends up with the protagonist ending up like realizing something about their lives and sweet, but they managed to come up with something that's very sort of like acerbic, very, very New York, very, very like, today's time as opposed to the 90s with Groundhog Day, but also is also quite sweet at the same time. So, Shaun, any questions about this?
I mean, the thing is, with these series, if they become very samey, I mean, I found that with Peaky Blinders. I know Sharon loves Peaky Blinders, but I just found each series was the same sort of thing over and over again. So I could find myself. I mean, there was another film, I think it's called Happy Death Day or something, which is in a similar vein. So, I mean, I'm not really a big fan of these. Although Groundhog Day was okay, but I don't think I'd really worry about seeing it again. So I don't know if that's whatever they would call it, like
okay.
Okay. Would you like to visit the same day again? I mean, it would be interesting, wouldn't it, if you could wake up and think, oh, do you know what? I'm going to do this differently this way. But then I think it would become a bit mundane. So yeah, it's probably not one that I would probably watch. So I mean, I don't know what your star rating is. I'm going to go on mute again so you can talk. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Sharon, what do you? Okay, first of all, I'll say no. I wouldn't like to live the same day again. Number two, I agree with you. When it gets a bit samey, it's not bad, and I think that this show manages to avoid becoming samey, which I'm actually really, really impressed with. Sharon, any questions?
Oh. No, I mean, I really liked Groundhog Day. So it's the premise itself is they're trying to get something right and just keep going until you get it right, and then there's an appeal to that. I think I wouldn't like to do it myself.
Yeah.
But no, it sounds intriguing. It sounds like an interesting premise, anyway.
It is interesting, and I was worried that it was just going to be something we'd seen before, but they managed to throw enough wrinkles at it to make this worthwhile. Because my whole thing was like, is this going to be worthwhile? I saw the trailer and I thought, I don't think it's going to be worthwhile. They managed to make it that. All right, cool. Time's up. We shall move on. So we're going back to cinema, and Shaun, we're going to bring you off mute, and you're going to talk about Underwater. And I know nothing about this film apart from a poster that seems to have Kristen Stewart on it.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Underwater. Now, what can I say? This film? I'll give you a brief synopsis, really, and then I'll tell you my thoughts. So it's basically the Marianas Trench. They're drilling. It's the lowest part of the ocean. So, or the deepest ocean in there. And then you've got Kristen Stewart. It's funny, we were saying about Robert Pattinson in Lighthouse. I think Kristen Stewart, they're trying some interesting roles, aren't they, since their Twilight days? Because I mean, that's what everybody sort of knows them for. So, and I think she's been doing a good job. So anyway, it's this drilling company, and they're obviously drilling into Marianas Trench. And then you get all this information at the start of the film, and then it cuts to sort of Kristen Stewart, and she's like cleaning her teeth, and then there's this massive earthquake thing, and you wonder what's going on, and there's all sort of chaos reigns supreme, and people are trying to be saved, and it turns into like, they need to basically get out of where they are because it's all cracking, and the only way they can get out is to go deeper to this other, like the drill head, if you like, where they're doing all the. So it's basically alien underwater, really.
You see, that's what I was wondering about.
It's basically, yeah. So you've got a little group of people. So Kristen, she's or Nora, as she's known in the film, and she picks up a few people along the way, and there's a captain, and so there's this little group that are going on this adventure, basically, and they find little underwater aliens, I guess you'd call them, or krakens, or whatever they are. There's obviously a little one, and it's like, goodness me, what would happen if there was a big one? So obviously that there's got to be a big one. So yeah, and so basically that's the premise of the film. It's group of people trying to get away, trying to sort of save themselves, having lots of mishaps on the way, and self-sacrifice, and all that sort of there's nothing new in this, and it is, as I say, it's basically, I think, almost shot for shot from Alien. It's the same idea, but just underwater, and instead of the spacesuits, they've got diving suits, which they're down in intense pressures. But it's quite, to be fair, it's quite what should we say? It's quite it would be quite gripping. I didn't think it was particularly bad film. It had good moments of tension, but it was just really, really it was nothing new. It was nothing new. So I can't really say. If you've seen Aliens, if you've seen Alien, then it is more or less. But it's more or less alien underwater. So that's about all we can really say about that.
How many stars?
Almost. How many stars? I'm gonna have to give this a 3-star, I'm afraid.
Okay. Could you go on mute for a second? I just want to say some stuff. Oh, and we've lost Shaun. So apparently, Shaun just gave us what he thought about underwater, and I think that was it. And he's just disappeared.
Right.
I think he might be back. Oh, good Lord, this is crazy. Remind us, Sharon, that maybe doing this thing in 3 locations might not be the best idea in the future. But it's funny because everything that Shaun said, I kind of looked at the poster and thought exactly that. I looked at the poster and thought, yeah, that looks like they're going to try and do some sort of like alien monster movie, but underwater. It looks like I was looking and going that this is going to be derivative. I don't think it's going to be any different from The Abyss. I don't think it's going to be any different from Alien or anything like that. And so what Shaun just said, it's like, well, that was kind of exactly what I expected. I don't know about you.
Yes, I hadn't really formed any opinions about this, to be honest with you. I've only seen half of the trailer. I don't think I've even seen the whole trailer. And I didn't quite know, I couldn't work out what it was about from the little bit I saw. So, and actually, I'm more interested in seeing it now because I thought, okay, I wouldn't mind seeing that. I like my underwater, peril at sea.
Oh, okay. So you're a genre girl,
that sort of thing. Yeah, I quite like my creature features and aliens in a hostile environment. Hey, I'm up for that. So I'm probably more likely to see it now that I know a little bit more about it.
All right, and Shaun,
so I might check that one out.
So, Shaun, just to check, you did say
hello.
Yeah, Shaun, just to check, you said you would give this 3 stars?
3 stars, yeah.
Okay.
3 stars. As I say, it's not a bad movie. The tension's there, but there's nothing new, nothing new to give it that extra star, if you like.
All right, cool, good stuff. Right, so that's 3 stars for Underwater, and well done to Kristen Stewart for being able to break away from the shackles of Bella Swan. Now we go back to Netflix for our final thing of this technologically challenged version of this podcast. And so we go back to Sharon. Shaun, please go back on mute. And Sharon, you have seen something on Netflix called Ragnarok.
Ragnarok, yes. This is a Norwegian 6-part drama on Netflix, and it is about basically a woman with her 2 teenage sons returns to her hometown, a fictional town called Ebba, I think, in the Norwegian, and it's Edda, sorry, and as they get back, strange things start to happen. There's an environmental sort of catastrophe going where the fjords are rising and the glaciers are melting, and sort of strange things are happening because of that. One of a teenage sort of activist that may sound familiar to some of you out there, that a Scandinavian teenage activist has got very into sort of environmental issues in her local area, and she mysteriously turns up dead. Ooh. And no one is investigating her death because they think, it was just as an accident. She sort of put herself in danger, and look, she's become, a casualty of her recklessness. And so as one of her best friends at school starts to investigate this, and he's discovering in himself that he's developing these abilities that he hadn't previously had, and he's noticing there's something odd about the principal family of the town. And as the story unfolds, basically, it draws in the Norse myths about the Norse gods and the epic battle between the giants and the gods. And the giants are basically like superhumans, and the gods are the sort of Thor and Loki and Odin and people like that. And so one of these particular teenage boys begins to display the characteristics of one of these Norse gods, and some of the family are beginning to be less than human themselves. And so as the story goes on, it sort of ties in with this sort of environmental story as well as this bringing the Norse myths back into modern day Scandinavia or modern day Norway. So I thought it was an interesting twist on the Norse mythology.
You see, now I like the sound of this because I had no clue what this was. I went in because the first time I heard about this was my brother saying, "Hey, I'm watching Ragnarok on Netflix. Do you have any idea how to get it in? Because it's in dubbed English, and I hate it in dubbed English." So he was like, "How do you get the subtitles on and get it into Norwegian?" And I was like, "What, are you talking about Thor Ragnarok?" He's like, No. It's just something on there called Ragnarok." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
But I quite like the idea of, well, you know me, I'm all for a culture taking hold of its own stories. And so for ages, like, whenever you hear about any of Odin or Thor or anything like that, it's either an American take on it or a British take on it. And I think it's about time you actually have a Norse take on it, because they came up with it in the first place. So
yeah, it's their culture, it's their history. Yeah. So they are like definitely reclaiming it, and they're sort of like young, sort of Norwegian teenager, embracing his heritage. So I thought, I really enjoyed it. I used to love a program called The Almighty Johnsons, which was on a few years ago now.
Oh yeah,
and that was a New Zealand drama where they were basically they were like the Norse gods reincarnated in New Zealand, and so that had the whole culture clash between modern day Kiwis and sort of the Norse gods, and that was very funny and really bizarre, but I really liked that. So this was again sort of like taking it back to the source, taking it back to the north, the sort of where they do have these long winters and the ice and the snow, and that is a character of their lives, the weather and the environment. And so to see how they can tie in with our modern angst about the environment and about the impact that humanity has, and sort of dropping these old gods in it, thinking, okay, what would the Norse gods make of all this going on in their backyard?
I like the sound of it a lot.
I thought it was interesting, but I had a weird thing with my Netflix though. I had to keep changing the subtitle settings because it would describe everything on the subtitles. It'd be like, this is so and so talking, and then it'd be like, oh, a tree rustling. It's like, I don't need everything described, just tell me what they're saying. So I had to go in and reset it. Every single episode I had to go in and reset just the subtitles, please, not the full description. But it'd be like, say, oh, ominous music, and it's like, I know, I can hear the ominous music. Or it'd be like, say, oh, this is whispering. It's like, I can hear him. So it took me a while to work out how to change the subtitles. So I think if your brother had that issue, it's probably the fact that the people who set the standard for these programs were a bit nuts. I think they thought we.
Call it as you see it, Sharon. Call it as you see it.
So every single episode I had to go in and rechange it. So I think there probably were issues with how they actually set it up to just autoplay on Netflix.
All right. So Shaun, what did you think Shaun, what do you think about the sound of that?
It sounds really intriguing and really interesting. I think with the Norse gods, same with the Greek gods and all that, there's always something interesting to do with them. I don't know what it is, why. Maybe it's just part of our culture that it's those ancient times. We like all that mystery and godlike stuff. So it does sound intriguing. How many episodes are there?
6.
6 episodes. Oh, right, okay. And does it conclude, or do you think there will be more to come?
It's the way it ends was set up as if it's going to be another series, I think.
Oh, right, okay, cool. Yeah, sounds intriguing.
Okay, so we'll mute Shaun again.
Okay.
So Shaun, I'm so sorry. I feel like a school teacher that's just telling you to sit in the corner. I'm so sorry about this. But so Sharon, I'm not sure you said, how many stars would you give it?
No, I didn't say. I would give it 4 stars. I enjoyed it.
Ooh.
I thought, and I would sort of say that there's got some interesting things to say. I've just seen on it, it's sort of flagged up as like, oh, there's nudity and there's things to be worried about. I can't actually remember any of that, so it can't have made that deep an impression of me if they did have a lot of male nudity. I didn't remember.
Or maybe. That does not sound bad for the naked guys. I mean, that sounds bad for the naked guys. You were naked, but I don't remember that. But
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember you being naked.
But
I must have. Yeah.
Either that, or the same person who decides that you need those subtitles to be that descriptive on Netflix has decided, you know what? You don't need to see this, and has just edited it right
we know,
out.
yeah. We know what you won't like, and you won't like that.
Okay, so. All that's left to say is okay, who won this week? Sharon, what do you reckon?
I think it's going to be Netflix.
All right, and we're going to get naughty boy Shaun out of the corner, get him off mute. Shaun, what do you reckon?
Thank you. Yeah, probably Netflix. Muting again.
Thank you, Shaun. Thank you for your understanding. And yes, you guys are both right. It is Netflix. Netflix was a 4 all across the board week. So Uncut Gems, Russian Doll, Ragnarok, we gave them all 4. So Netflix is doing good with some high quality output. On the cinema side, only Emma got 4. Birds of Prey and Underwater were 3 each. So yeah, well done, Netflix. Now, all that is left to do is for me to say, let's just say a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Unmute and a goodbye from me. Okay, take care, everyone.
Thank you very much for sticking with us all the way through this echoey podcast this week, and we will see you guys next week.